It's about the restoration of our republic. We want to educate, encourage, enable the power. We stand for integrity, honesty, self-reliance, self-defense, and most importantly, no compromise on our foundational principles. This is America's Voice Now.
Find America's Voice Now on Facebook and at americasvoicenow.org. Here's Michael Evans.
Good morning, America. You're listening to America's Voice Now. You're joining us in our third of four segments. So far this morning, we've covered the ATF and the treason of Eric Holder and how the ATF is planning to use drones for domestic surveillance. You know, for all of those people that are naysayers out there and keep saying, well, they're not going to do that, how many times do you have to be disproven? How many times does your utopian fantasy have to be dashed to the ground to make you recognize the danger that this nation is in? Our second topic was Last Man Standing, the rancher standoff in Nevada. You know, the family that is being accosted out there in Clark County, Nevada, I got to tell you, it is on a level of criminality and every American who has the wherewithal and the capability to get out there should be doing so. There should be such a massive protest that the ranch should be surrounded. The entire BLM area should be surrounded 5 deep by Americans locking elbows and standing against federal tyranny. Arrest the BLM individuals. Arrest the individuals from the EPA. Arrest them all. Arrest them. There is a thing called citizen's arrest, and we should be using it. Now Chuck Hagel, and this topic is going to be the China crisis. Chuck Hagel had the Chinese give him a proverbial slap in the face when they turned around and said to him that they will not be contained. He went over there with the idea of touring an aircraft carrier, and his goal was to create a, quote, framework to manage competition. What? Now, you see, if two companies said that, let's assume Coke and Pepsi said that they were going to have a meeting to manage competition, that would be construed as a violation of antitrust. But you got Chuck Hagel, the representative of the United States of America for defense, not for commerce, for defense, going over there and trying to cut a deal to manage competition. And we're going over there with a weakened hand, with a position not of strength, but of capitulation, cowering, empty threats. Shameful. The Chinese have orchestrated this and played Hagel and us over this issue. They've been playing us for decades, since Nixon's day. Economically, politically. Hagel toured their first aircraft carrier, the first produced aircraft carrier they've made. And their defense minister looked right at him and warned him and said, not even the United States can contain our military ambition. Wow. Think about that for a moment. Just think about that statement for a moment. If you don't smell the raw aggression that comes off of this nation, China, like the putrid smell of defecation that's wafting through the air, like the smell of death, you're blinded by either your greed, your stupidity, your ideology, or your utopian fantasies. Make no mistake that when this all comes down, there'll be a few hundred million yellow Chinamen. And they will be looking for the resources on this continent to rape and pillage it for the improvement of those at home. They will pay any price to attain them, including your death. I strongly encourage America, average Americans, because our government won't do it. They have already made their peace and play with the devil. But I encourage you to toss off the utopian fantasy of world peace. Unlike President Obama's statement and Angela Merkel from Germany, who couched Vladimir Putin and insulted him with the juvenile argument that you're acting like a 19th century tyrant. The world is full of tyrants. It's full of aggressive psychopaths. It's full of men and women hungry for power and money, not the least of which our government is among. You need to toss off the utopian fantasy of a world full of brotherly love. What's coming and what's going to happen between the United States and China will be catastrophic and deadly to not only America, but probably all of mankind on a global scale. China is acquiring real estate, massive chunks of real estate, not only in major cities. They're buying up farmland. They're buying up food production companies. They're buying up ranches. They're buying up mining resources and mining rights, all in the United States of America. And they're using our money to do it because we have a $300 billion deficit every year. $300 billion leaves our shores that never comes back every year. And it's been going on for 35 or 40 years. We have funded our enemy. They are our enemy, make no mistake about it. China is looking to become the lone superpower, and they will take our resources to accomplish that. They've already taken our money. They've taken most of our jobs. And if our own government doesn't beat them to it, out of their greed and stupidity, they'll probably be the thing that launches our collapse. But the Chinese will be willing to finish it. If you don't think that there will be a few hundred million yellow hordes landing upon our shores and turning you and your family into worker bees to feed the Chinese growth, then you don't really understand the depth of depravity of the mind of humans. This is bold, cold talk. I get it. Most people don't want to hear that. They blow it off. That's not true. I mean, that can't happen in our civilized world. We have iPads. What kind of a damn fool are you to think that? You know, in the 30s and 40s, in the early 1900s, we had this brand new invention called the automobile. I mean, how civilized could we be? We don't have to ride those sweaty, smelly horses anymore. That can't happen. Oh, you short-sighted utopian fantasist. They have been working on methodology and means to destroy the United States of America. And think how easy it would be to simply toss an EMP. It's not a nuclear weapon. There will be no fallout from radiation. But just lob one a couple of 100,000 kilometers above the planet, above the United States, and shut it down. Put a virus into the grid that won't do lasting permanent damage, but will darken the United States of America for the next 3 years. They would have the only means and methodology of replacing the equipment they've damaged, and they would have military and political superiority that would come with it. If you really think that China doesn't think that way, you've been living in your little county too long, and you have not explored or expounded your mind to look at what the world is really like. General Chang Wanquan said, "With the latest developments in China, it can never be contained. The U.S. is a country of worldwide influence, and the Pacific Ocean is huge enough to hold both China and the U.S. for common development, and also huge enough to hold the other Asia-Pacific countries. But if you missed the cue, I want you to listen to his first sentence again. With the latest developments in China, it can never be contained." Need you be reminded of that same mindset from Japan prior to World War II? Hegel went over there to manage competition between the U.S. and China. He also went over there to give other countries in the area the assurance that somebody was there to keep them safe from China stomping all over them with jackboots. But he failed. And he failed because, irrespective of how strong his words may have been, the actions of the United States speak volumes compared to their pathetic sentences. They've been cyber attacking us, ladies and gentlemen, for over a decade. They have infiltrated our banking systems. Yes, the Federal Reserve that thinks they're so secure, don't even go there. They have infiltrated our utility systems. They have infiltrated our military. They have set up territorial disputes to test the waters. They use North Korea as a little brother to test the resolve of the United States of America. Like a little brother, like a drug dealer on the streets who uses his little brother to mule and carry all the dope. He makes the deal, but the little brother carries it. And that's so that if they are arrested, the little brother will only get a slap on the wrist because he's a juvenile, and he can be caught with a pound of dope, and it's not going to really change his life. He's going to get out of reform school when he's 18. And the big brother knows it. So he enlists the little brother to carry and do all the real muling of the dirt. China uses North Korea just like that. They are replacing us in Africa as the go-to for peace and stability. They're replacing us in South America as the go-to for peace and stability. They've already replaced us in most of the rest of Asia. They're actively working on the Middle East, which already hate us. They trade weapons of mass destruction with our sworn enemies. They threaten us right to our face. And we turn around and look back at our own population and say, come on, they're just kidding. Yeah, they're just kidding us. No, they're not. We have lost the influence in the region. We've lost the influence everywhere else. They're using this issue of these two islands that are in dispute between Japan and China as a means to test us and test our commitment to Japan. The hatred between Japan and China is age-old. And Japan has been guilty of terrible atrocities against the Chinese. If you don't know your world history, well, that's on you. Go do your own homework and due diligence. Don't take my word for it. Just go look it up. They have threatened us away from Taiwan, who we committed to preserve. We betrayed them after World War II, and now we've betrayed them again. They have us fearful of them. Your representatives and your elected officials in Washington turn around with a strong, bold face to you and give you the assurance that they've got this all in control. But when they turn around to face China to negotiate, they approach from a position of weakness. And the Chinese know it. Hegel spews words at them, and they laugh. He says, I will be talking with the Chinese about its respect for their neighbors. You cannot go around the world and redefine boundaries and violate territorial integrity and the sovereignty of nations by force, coercion, or intimidation, whether it's in small islands in the Pacific or large nations in Europe. Tough talk from a pussy. And that's essentially what we are. We are a paper tiger. And they know it. Worse yet, their plans include it. We have allowed China to influence everything about our nation to the detriment of our nation and their benefit. This posturing of tough talk, but actions that belie your real true strength and or intentions is foolish. This idea of the Obama administration and the Bush administration and the Clinton and the Bush before him of abandoning the principle of peace through strength will be for sure the demise of the United States of America on an international political arena. Our foreign policy is in tatters. Every foreign policy issue out there has literally collapsed. Not a single one. And I got to tell you, most of them were based on some kind of cooperation from Russia. And now that we're in a nose-to-nose, foam-spitting contest with Putin, all of them have evaporated into nothing but smoke. These people who call themselves our representatives are incompetent, inept, treasonous, traitorous, greedy, pathetic, and we've allowed them to buffalo us long enough. It's time to remove them, all of them, and reassert and reestablish this nation as the basic foundational pool and the well of liberty and freedom and strength. We're going to take a quick break. When we return, we're going to talk about Obamacare shutting down health insurance across the country for the next 9 months. If that's what Obamacare was all about, forcing you to buy when they say you can buy, while you're being forced at the point of a gun to buy, it's even more unconstitutional than we thought. We'll be right back.